Hi, Clint Kaeb here, Kaeb Sanitary. Hey, today I want to talk to you about disinfectants, and I want to ask the question, is the disinfectant you are using, is it safe? That's a question I've been getting a lot of here lately with the tremendous increase in the use of disinfectants, and really more than anything, probably the different people that are using disinfectants, like teachers, or maybe even students. With this pandemic, there's been obviously a lot of new users. And so I've been getting that question from customers as they ask, hey, is this product, is it going to be safe for the people that I'm having use it? And so we've had a lot of discussions with customers, but I thought, hey, if we're having it with a few, it's probably a lot of people have the same questions. So let's just start talking about disinfectants in general. Obviously, disinfectants are regulated by the US EPA. There's a reason for that, because they kill organisms. So disinfectants, by their very nature, that's what they're designed to do, is to kill bad things, right? And so with that, there's also can be consequences. And so we want to talk about how to use disinfectants safely. But let's start talking about the different disinfectants that you see out there, because there's several different kinds, and there's different reasons people use different disinfectants. I'll start with the most popular that you see out there. We provide a lot of this product. It's a quaternary ammonia compound. And the reason you see a lot of quats out there, well, there's several reasons. One is it's relatively inexpensive. Two, probably the most important, is it kills a broad spectrum. So it's effective against COVID, most of them are, but really a broad spectrum, of viruses and bacteria. Along with being, fairly available, fairly low cost, they're also fairly safe, especially if they're used appropriately and diluted properly. So that's the start. You see a lot of those. But then you also see chlorines, all right? So think of bleach. Bleach, same thing, kills a broad spectrum, relatively inexpensive. It's a little less safe just because if you think of bleach, it's corrosive, right? So it's going to be a little harsher on metals. It's going to bleach out different surfaces, so you have to be a little bit more careful. And then you have hydrogen peroxide. And hydrogen peroxide is typically it's a safer product, but it's not as effective either. It doesn't kill everything. So a lot of times it has to be helped along with something like a peracetic acid, which then kind of takes away that safety, but makes it very effective. One of the products I've seen a little bit more of here lately is products that are mixed with like a silver ion. So you might have a citric acid with a silver ion. Those products are very, very safe. They're very, very expensive as well. So our goal at Kaeb Sanitary is to try to mix the two, right? We want a safe product, but we also need something that we can use at scale when we're talking about disinfecting schools and hospitals and that kind of thing. So that's the reason we use a lot of quats. But let's talk about how do we make those, whatever we're using, whether it be a quat or whatever it is, how do we make it safer? Well, number one, I think is really important is learn to read an SDS. All right, so I have an SDS here of one of our products. It's super important to be able to read that and understand what are the hazards potentially with a product. And another thing that's extremely important is understanding an SDS is going to be for a concentrated product, and then if you have a concentrated product that you're going to dilute, there's also going to be an SDS of that dilutable product. And really, that's what you're using, and it's really important for your users to see that. And I say that because that's one of the common concerns I've heard from a lot of people is they'll read an SDS and they'll see it for a concentrated product and they'll say, wow, this stuff is really hefty. You'll see on the NFPA rating, so the NFPA basically has a 0 through 4 level, all right, on health, on stability, so is it going to react like bleach and acid, right? And then flammability. And so it's 1 through 4. And so we have a product that's a 3 on that in its concentrated form, one of our disinfectants. And at that level, you don't want to get that, especially like in your eyes or in inhalation. It's very, very harsh. Well, once it's diluted, it's a 1, all right? So still, we need to be safe with it. We need to practice good PPE, using gloves, that kind of thing. But there's quite a difference between those products. So that's really important to understand how to read the SDS. One other thing I'm going to throw in there, because we've seen so many of these guys out here in the market, is these electrostatic sprayers. Hey, these things are great. They do a great job at putting disinfectant down quickly, efficiently, cost effectively. However, what we're doing is we're atomizing the disinfectant, all right? And that allows us to breathe it in. So it's super, super important if you're using a product like that, an electrostatic sprayer, to have an N95 mask that you're wearing with it. So this has been ongoing for the last probably 20 years. Healthcare recognized this a long time ago. And in most healthcare settings, you won't see people with a trigger sprayer. You'll see one with microfiber, right? And they'll pre-charge that microfiber and they'll wipe down surfaces. There's a couple of reasons. One is it's more efficient. You're more effective actually in removing viruses as you clean like that. But also, we don't want the inhalation hazard, especially with patients that might be at risk. So the same thing goes for users, right? We need to be careful. So if we're using some sort of device like a trigger sprayer or electrostatic sprayer, we should be using the proper PPE. All right. One other thing I'm going to mention, I've already mentioned dilution. You can get products that are concentrated. Typically, in a commercial environment where you're, a bigger school setting, hospitals, you're going to be using concentrated products because they're much more cost effective. Well, the danger is if some user would get a hold of that concentrated product and they would use that and try to use it ready to use, right? And that's where there could be some real unintended consequences of things like a quat or chlorine or whatever it is. So it's so important to have some sort of dilution control. And so we really recommend having a dilution control system that the end user never touches the concentrated product. There's a lot of things that go into this. Really, I want to be able to be a resource to those who have questions. So if you do have questions specifically on your disinfectant, hey, I would be happy to talk with you to help you through SDS. But thanks for listening. Hopefully this is helpful.